Hello, my name is Duncan McGregor. Today, we will be looking at a piece by William Shakespeare. A lot of people assume that William speaks Old English. However, Shakespeare's work is basically poetry. He spoke just like you and me. However, he used a very specific choice in language. So there's something called iambic pentameter. The words mimic the beats of a heart. To be or not to be, that is the question. To help everybody today, I will be dissecting one of the most known monologues of William Shakespeare's plays. It is in the play Hamlet, as you all may know. And it is the classic existential crisis, which is to be or not to be, line by line, and show you how to properly read this. This opening line is what's called an enjambed line, which means that the reason that the speech is broken up the way it is because each line should have 10 syllables. So it should be 5. This is what's called an enjambed line, which means the line does not finish with a punctuation. That means that it will build into the next line. This is important because most people think they should stop at each dash or at the end of each line. No, you keep going. Commas are like breaths. You take a breath in when you need to hit a comma, where in a period, you're just gonna stop, right? Be or not to be, that is a question. It ends with a question mark. That means that's the end of that thought. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer these slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them. Is it better to suffer through life, or is it better to just kind of end them? These commas you just kind of bust through. They should be just breaths for you to catch yourself. With vowels, you can portray emotion. Vowels you can play with, and that's very important. Opposing, not only is it a onomatopoeia word, it sounds like what it is, it's a very emotion-filled word. Outrageous also has this. Shakespeare also likes thesis and antithesis. So thesis in Greek is idea, and antithesis, which is antithesis, is the counter to that idea. He likes to play with these because contrasting is good. A lot of people don't understand that the Elizabethan people who watched this were not nobles. I mean, nobles did like Shakespeare's work. However, the common people went to see Shakespeare's work for three big reasons. Shakespeare liked dirty jokes. One of the lines that Hamlet has, he tells Ophelia, "Get thee to a nunnery." Now, of course, in the time period, "get thee to a nunnery" had a double entendre. Either, you're a pure woman, you should go find yourself a nunnery where you will be, prestige, or a whorehouse. He makes a lot of dick jokes. Bottom from Midsummer Night's Dream, his name is Bottom. He also gets turned into an ass. This is why Shakespeare is not difficult, because he wrote this for people who could barely read. If you look in Shakespeare's monologues, he has repetition. This repetition helps to bring the audience back to the main idea. The other reason that Shakespeare pieces were so loved were because had a lot of blood and death in them. Whenever you're reading a Shakespeare soliloquy or a sonnet or whatever, just look for repetition and you'll kind of understand it by the end, or at least get an idea of it if you just either read or listen for repetitive sentences. To die, to sleep, no more, and by sleep to say we end the headache and thousand natural shocks the flesh is heir to, 'tis consumption devoutly to be wished. Okay, so you have a lot of hyphens in here. That's, keep going, basically. If you ever run into a line that has more syllables, that means it's important and you should emphasize it. Heartache, he invented that word. Die, you don't have to deal with any of the headaches or the suffering or the pain. He starts with this to die, to sleep, and then he goes into devoutly to wish, to die, to sleep again. Perished in a dream, there's the rub, for in the sleep of death what dreams may come, when we are suffered off the mortal coil, must give us pause, period. All right, we go from this exclamation point, which when he puts an exclamation point in it, it's really loud. It's really full of emotion. It's important. It's very much so statement to the actor or to the reader that this is of value. Okay, again, he's building a repetition in here, some alliteration, keeps emphasis on this central idea. There's the respect that made calamity of so long life, for who we bear to whip the scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, that pangs of despised love and law's delay, the insolence of office, the spurs the patient meriteth take, when he himself might his quietus make the bare bonkin. So we see this hyphenation of th with an apostrophe. It's the unworthy, but it's the unworthy. Basically takes away a syllable, that way we can keep pentameter. He does this a lot in words, and this is where like normal contractions come from. Who would fertiles bear to grunt and sweat under a weary life, but that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country, whose bourne no travel's return, puzzles that will and make us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others that we know not of. Thus conscience does make cowards of us all, and thus the native hue of resolute is sickled o'er with the pale cast of thought and enterprise of great pith and moment. With regard their currents turn away, and lost the name of action. Soft you now, the fair Ophelia, nymph is thy orson, by all my sins remembered. O'er is just over. This is a dissection of Hamlet's To Be or Not to Be speech by William Shakespeare.